All right, hello everyone and welcome. We've got a really important weather update to break down for South India, specifically for October 24th, 2025. There's a new system forming out in the Bay of Bengal, and honestly, it's the one thing we all need to be watching very closely. So let's just dive right in. So, what's the big question on everyone's mind right now? It's all about what's brewing out there in the Bay of Bengal. We're seeing some movement, there's definitely potential, and we're going to break down exactly what that could mean for the weather right where you are. So let's kick things off right here with this new disturbance that's starting to take shape near the Andaman Sea. This little guy right here is going to be the main event, the main weather maker over the next few days. Okay, so what we're really keeping our eye on is something called a trough, which is basically a stretched out area of low pressure. It's moved from over inland Tamil Nadu and is now sitting out in the Bay of Bengal, just southeast of Sri Lanka. Now, the crucial part is that the weather models are all pointing to this thing consolidating, getting its act together, and becoming a well-defined low-pressure area within the next 24 hours. Now, for anyone who's not a total weather geek, you might be asking, what exactly is a low-pressure area? Well, think of it like a little vacuum in the atmosphere. The air is lighter there, so air from the heavier, high-pressure areas all around it rushes in. When that air meets, it has nowhere to go but up. And as it rises, it creates clouds and rain. So, bottom line, when you hear a low-pressure area, you should be thinking unsettled weather is on its way. Now, this is where things get really interesting and a little bit complicated for the forecasters. It's not just one simple system we're watching. There are actually two different cyclonic circulations kind of fighting for dominance out there. Which one is going to win out and become the main system? Honestly, that's still a bit of a puzzle right now, but we should get a much clearer picture of its structure and where it's headed very soon. So, to get a handle on what might happen next, we got to look at the bigger picture. Let's talk for a second about the typical weather patterns we see in this part of the world during late October. And looking at past weather, or climatology, it gives us some really valuable clues. This slide illustrates it perfectly. Usually in late October, these systems that pop up in the Bay of Bengal tend to curve and track further north, heading up towards South Andhra and Odisha. It's not typically until we get past that first week of November that the odds increase for these systems to make a direct track towards Tamil Nadu. So that's really important context for what we might expect here. All right, before we jump into what's coming today, let's just take a quick peek back at the pretty significant rainfall some spots have already seen over the last 24 hours. Just take a look at that number. Wow. 96.4 millimeters. That is almost 10 centimeters of rain in just one day. And believe it or not, two different places recorded this exact very intense amount of rain. And here's where that rain fell. You can see Arakonam in Ranipet district and Vyasapuram over in Tiruvallur district both top the charts with that incredible 96.4 millimeters. But it wasn't just them. You can see heavy rain was pretty widespread, with big totals also recorded way out in Dharmapuri and all the way down in Kanyakumari. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's dive into how this all shapes up for the forecast for today. We're going to go through it state by state, and we'll start with Kerala. Let's start with Kerala, where it looks like the wet weather is definitely set to continue today. Widespread rain is pretty much a given across the state. And if we dig into the details, the southern districts are really on alert for very heavy rain. We're talking places like Thiruvananthapuram and Kollam. But the northern districts aren't getting off easy either. They're looking at heavy to very heavy spells, especially in Wayanad and Kannur, with even the potential for very heavy rain all the way up in Kasaragod. All right, moving on, let's talk about the forecast for Karnataka, where the weather story is being driven by those strong westerly winds and a nearby depression. So for the coastal districts, what they call the Karavalli, they could see quite a range, anything from moderate all the way up to very heavy rain. If you move further inland, the Kalyana Karnataka region is also on watch for some heavy spells. And for a lot of other places, including Bengaluru, it looks like widespread moderate rain with some heavier showers mixed in is the most likely scenario for today. Okay, now let's shift our focus over to Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. They've already seen a ton of rain, and it looks like more is on the way. So Andhra Pradesh has already gotten slammed with some serious rain, between 100 and 150 millimeters in some areas just yesterday. Today, that trend continues. Moderate to heavy rain in the south, with the potential for very heavy rain as you head further north. Over in Telangana, the forecast is for widespread moderate rain, but don't be surprised if some heavy spells pop up. And that includes for folks in and around the Hyderabad area. And finally, let's break down the forecast for Tamil Nadu, which is, well, it's a bit of a mixed bag depending on where you are in the state. So, because of those westerly winds, the Western Ghats region is really going to feel it the most. We're talking heavy rain likely in the Nilgiris, and then moderate to heavy spells all the way down through Kanyakumari and Tirunelveli. The central and north interior districts can also bank on some moderate to heavy rain. Things get a bit lighter for the western districts like Salem and Coimbatore, while coastal areas, including Chennai, are probably looking at light to moderate spells for today. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the rain we've already had to the detailed forecasts for today. But what's the one big takeaway, the single most important thing you need to remember from all of this? It really all comes down to this. Everything, and I mean everything, depends on that developing low-pressure system in the Bay of Bengal. While today's rain is being driven by what's already here, the path and the strength of this new system will call the shots for our weather for the rest of the week. That is the one thing everyone needs to be watching.
And that, of course, leads us to the final huge question. We know it's likely going to become a low-pressure area, but does it have what it takes to get even stronger and intensify into a cyclone? That is what forecasters are going to be monitoring around the clock, and you can be sure we'll be right here to explain it all as soon as we know more. Thanks for joining me.